Hey everyone, I'm here today with my really good buddy, the Aerocool CS106 computer case. Yes, it's an inanimate object, but that's not weird. Isn't that right, Wilson? Say hi, Lucy. He's a bit camera shy, I'll put him away. That's okay. But basically, the reason I bought this is it's one of the smallest micro ATX cases I could find. I'm looking to build a home lab storage server type system, also known as a NAS, I suppose. And basically, this fit in my networking corner in my study, so it's a really good fit. Of course, because it's such a small case, and I'll show the dimensions shortly, but because it's such a small case, there are some downsides to it. For example, the PSU is at the top, which I'm not a massive fan of. There's going to be limited airflow and cable management potential, but overall I think it's actually a pretty good case for what I need it for. It's not flashy, of course, but let's just take a look at it. So the first thing you notice is there's no side case. It's literally two solid panels. Hi Wilson, sorry. Two solid panels, but of course you've got space there for a side fan, which is kind of nice. You've also got space there for another case fan at the back. Your PSU will go there, your motherboard I/O shield will go there, and then any expansion slots you got will go there. For this particular build, I'm actually going to use a 10 gigabit Ethernet networking card, which will just obviously go there. There's not going to be any graphics card in this build. I'm just going to use an integrated graphics on my CPU because I don't need that. This will just be for storage. But obviously this does support graphics cards as well. I think on the back, let's have a look. On the back, it says it supports them up to 286 millimeters, which actually is a decent length. You're not going to get a big triple fan in there. You're not going to get an RTX 4090, but you will get a lot of other graphics cards in there. So if we just open up this case, let's remove all of these. Caught it. I'm not Linus Tech Tips, I didn't drop it. I almost did. Right, let me just put these down there. Okay, so this is what the computer case looks like inside. Quite basic. I should say the actual overall computer is aluminium, just simple aluminium. And then in the front, you've got this kind of brushed aluminium effect. It feels and looks actually pretty good. I should say that this case is literally £20 in the UK market. This feels like a slightly more premium case than this, to be honest. And it does everything I want as well. In terms of the connectors, I'll show the cable management in a minute. But in terms of the connectors, you've got USB 3, standard 3.0, I should say. Standard USB 2.0, your headphone and microphone jacks, a reset button, obviously your standard LEDs, and then your power button as well. They've also got this little brushed effect, which is kind of cool. But obviously, this is it. For the I/O front panel, you don't have USB 3.2 or anything like that. It is a lot more basic. But obviously, you can just compensate for that with your motherboard. You just need to be aware of the fact that it doesn't have, loads of I/O connectors. If we take the front off, right, all the cables are obviously pre-connected, as you can see there. It's a bit of a weird front because you've kind of got this here, which almost makes it look like you could have an optical drive or something like that, but obviously you can't because it's a solid front panel. I think probably this is just, maybe they used this sort of chassis with another build and they've just got that in. I don't really know. But in terms of here, you've got space for two fans, or you could actually use for liquid cooling a 120mm radiator, which would actually fit there as well, which is pretty nice. And then you just got your cables going in there, so that's pretty much the front. Apart from the fact that on the side you've obviously got this grill effect, so that that's going to let air flow through. There's no filter in there, it's literally just bare, so that will actually suck in air. So you might want to actually buy a third-party mesh filter, or just see whether you get dust and then compensate accordingly, I suppose. Let's put that back on if I can. Excellent. Okay, let's go back to the internals now. We've got that. So basically, by default, it comes with one fan, an Aerocool fan. It's decent, it would sort of work, but certainly not perfect. In terms of the case as a whole, as I mentioned at the start, the PSU fits at the top, which always makes me paranoid. I always fear that the PSU is going to fall onto my components, but I know it doesn't really work out with that. But basically, yeah, it would slide in. I need to make sure I get it the right way. It would slide in here. Yeah, it'd slide in there, be at the top. Obviously, I'd screw it in. I'm back. I realized that instead of randomly holding the PSU for the entire video, it would actually be better if I screwed it in. So at least you can see it a bit better. Ratchet screwdriver, gotta love it. It's available from techoverheadstore.com. Kidding, there is no store. That PSU is now in, you can see it there. So it's a top mounted one. Obviously, as long as it's screwed in, it's not going to fall on all of your components, even though I'm always a bit paranoid about that. But that brings us on to the next thing, which is how the actual motherboard fits inside here and the cable management and all that. Unfortunately, didn't actually decide on the motherboard that I wanted to buy yet for this particular build. I'm debating whether to go for a DDR5, future-proof system, or to go with a budget B4550 AM4 type system. So as a result, I have actually created these very lifelike cardboard cutouts. So this is a micro ATX one. You've got your CPU, your RAM, CMOS battery, and whatever this is, maybe PCI Express slot, I don't know. Very highly technical, and this is mini ATX with your CPU and your RAM and everything else. So in this particular case, if we get all of the cables out of the way for a minute, I'll stick them at the back there. There is actually, in this case, you can see there's a lot of cable management holes, which is pretty nice. So I'm just going to get them out of the way for a minute. Get these out of the way. I don't really need that fan at all for now, so I'll just move that. Okay, so with all that done, if you were going to fit a mini ITX motherboard, it would fit somewhere. Got to make sure it's the right way up, otherwise my computer won't boot. It's going to fit there. You can see where the standoffs are. This is actually the right size. This is a, 170 by 170. So that's where your mini ITX motherboard would go. If I get my hand out of the way now. But basically, can I hold it from the back? Yes, I can, sort of. That looks okay in this particular case. You can see you'd have all the cable management stuff, absolutely fine. When it comes to your big, your big motherboard connector, that's going to come in probably, yes, fits perfect. It's going to come in there. It's going to clip there, and then you can hide it away in the back, with no issue. So actually, that's quite nice. It feels like quite a good spacious case actually for mini ATX. Then we come to micro ATX, which is probably what I'm going to go for because that's going to be the more budget option. And it's just going to be easier all around. Got to make sure it's the right way up, and the CMOS battery doesn't fall out. This is going to be a bit harder. So basically, it almost comes all the way. And this is 240 millimeters by 240 millimeters, so it is actually, accurate to size. It's what my current ASUS motherboard uses. And yeah, just about fits. Just. You can see it would be around there when you account for the motherboard standoffs and things like that. So it's pretty big. It takes up quite a lot of space inside the case, as you can see. I'll bring that forward a bit, but it does fit. But of course, that's where cable management comes in, because if there were no cable management holes in this case, you really struggle to actually fit everything in. But thankfully, there is some. And when you come to the motherboard connector, that would come through one of these 3 holes on the side here. Loop round and plug in, and that would work. You can just see there, that would work. Your CPU one's going to be a bit more of a pain because it's in this top corner. I mean, it is a flaw. The CPU one, is always in the top corner. It's going to be a complete pain to actually get that in because effectively, you can plug it in here easily enough. You can hide a lot of the cables in the back, but then you don't really have the clearance. If I turn all the way around, you don't really have the clearance to get a cable in somewhere to actually plug it in. I mean, part of me, I don't know. Don't know what I'm going to do there. That's going to look a bit silly, I think. So that is the one downside of the case that I can think of, is your CPU one. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, and yeah, when I actually come to do the full build, I'll take a picture of what I ended up doing with the CPU cable, and I'll put it down in the comments as well, along with any other realizations I had about this case when I actually do the build. But you can see that although this case does support normal size micro ATX motherboards, there are going to be some trade-offs. Yeah, there's not going to be much room there, but at the very least, if I get rid of that, at the very least, you do have a lot of cable management holes, and you do have this slot here. So it might be that I can actually, because these are quite flat cables, it could be that I can actually loop my cable into here and bring it round. No, yeah, I might be able to do that. So I might actually have to do that. We will see. I'm not going to talk about this for too much. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. It is quite a flat cable, so I might be able to have that clearance behind the motherboard tray to actually run the CPU cable, but that's my only real concern. So yeah, in terms of cooling, as I mentioned before, you've got your side fan on one of the windows, then you've got a rear exhaust. Well, it doesn't have to be exhaust, but it would probably be exhaust. And then you've got your 2 intakes if you want them as intake at the front here. It also does support liquid cooling, but as you can imagine, it's going to all be a bit tight. If you were to try and fit liquid cooling in here, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. But overall, it's not a bad case. As I say, I paid £19 for it. With, I think it was Scan in the UK. Some other retailers are selling it for like £25 in the UK, but overall I'm actually pretty happy with this case. For a server build, you just want to stick in the corner in your house, it works quite well. especially if you haven't got a rack or you don't actually want to learn how to build a rack server and things like that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. The last thing I wanted to do was just talk about the dimensions a little bit more. I do also have a Corsair Carbide 88R case for my main workstation computer, and that's actually quite a small micro ATX case by modern standards, but it's still a lot bigger than this, so I'll put that comparison on the screen. In terms of the other data, it does fit a 3.5-inch drive if you wanted one. I think it's meant to be down here. I think, yeah, there's the screw holes down there at the bottom, so you could literally just screw it onto the bottom there. In terms of SSDs, it supports two, normal size 2.5-inch SSDs as well. To be honest, if it was me though, I tend to just leave SSDs lying around my case. Yeah, you're not going to have room in the back, I don't think, for an SSD. But to be honest, with NVMe drives, it's not going to be a massive issue anyway. I plan on just having a single 4TB NVMe drive in here, and that'll at least save on not having to have SATA cables and everything else running around my case. There's not much else to know here other than the fact that it does say with liquid cooling, if you were to have a 120mm radiator in the front, the case says they may interfere with the motherboard 24-pin connector. So in other words, this one. They're basically saying if you were to have your liquid cooling in there, then you actually might struggle, especially with your micro ATX motherboards, you might actually struggle to get your cable all the way in here and then loop it back round because you've got something there. So overall, I'm pretty impressed with this build for under £20 or under $25, I guess. It's a pretty good case. You've got a nice brushed feel on the front. The rest of it's aluminium. You've got a lot of good cable management, holes and things like that, so it is pretty good. There is one thing you need to know though. If you were to actually use this side fan here, that's going to actually interfere with the CPU cooler. So this case supports up to 167mm heat sinks, but if you were to actually have a full-size fan on here, that's going to interfere because that's going to be jetting out a little bit, and then when inside the case, that's going to reduce the clearance a little bit. What I've done as a result is buy a P12 slimline fan, which I'm going to use here. And I've actually bought two of them. I'm going to replace the standard fan as well with a slimline one. It's just going to give me a bit of extra room. These two front fans are going to be the normal size ones, but then the side one and the back one, which are going to be my exhausts, I'm just going to use the slimline one. And that's it really. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the thumbs up button and please subscribe to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.